Yo, it's KarQ here. Aaron Keller, the game director of Overwatch 2, released an article Friday, May 5th pertaining to Lifeweaver and how they perceive him to be. It's titled A Continued Look at Lifeweaver. Lifeweaver, unanimously agreed by the community, is sort of weak, actually quite weak. I would argue a little okay in the lower ranks because of reliable heals, but is healing enough? Do you have to be a bit more proactive to win games? Let's read what Aaron has to say, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on Lifeweaver after hard forcing him in a tournament recently that I played, and I also don't really play him in ranked in top 500 because I'm just gonna get flamed and avoided. But anyways, let's go from the top. Last director's take, we talked about the state of Lifeweaver and the changes that we were making to the hero in order to strengthen him. They had a positive effect, but didn't do nearly as much as we hoped. If you guys missed the context, they buffed him right before he came out into competitive, where they tightened the Thorn Volley spread, they removed the movement speed penalty on the healing charge, and they fixed some of the clunkiness on his kit in terms of the controls. We're going to continue that topic again this week. I'd like to look at what some of those changes accomplish, what we think he's missing, and some possible solutions we're looking at for the hero. Modified control scheme made it more fluid and intuitive, and we buffed him across several different categories, upped the healing ammo capacity, tightened the spread on the Thorn Volley, and buffed his ultimate. We saw a lift in his win rate across the game. At the lowest skill tiers, it was hovering around 45%, but quickly dropped off at the higher skill ratings. That's not good, by the way. 45% is pretty abysmal in the lower ranks, I would say. If you look at the overbuff stats, that's just publicly pulled API information, I believe, from public profile. So Blizzard has the full scope of stats and how they can actually have the tools to see unmirrored win rates and whatnot. There's a couple of heroes in lower skill tiers that have 45% win rates or lower, some of them being Sojourn, surprisingly, Oriso, Winston. They have like a 40%, 41%, which is not good. Ideally, you want it around 50%, give or take, for good balance. If it's really large disparity on either end, you know they're a little weak or a little strong, but it also is dependent on the context of the rank we're playing at. For example, I said Winston has like a 42% win rate in silver, probably because they don't execute it, but Winston's closer to 50% at the higher skill ratings. But Lifeweaver seems to have the opposite, where it's actually dropping off at the higher skill ratings, which is not good. They don't say what it is. I'm going to assume low 40%, which might be the lowest. I think almost all the supports in higher skill ratings in ranked competitive, according to what's given to us, is like most of them are above 46, 47%. I think KarQ actually has the lowest and highest skill ratings, but you can't just look at the stats because KarQ is, I would argue, still a very, very strong, powerful support hero, despite having the lowest win rate and high elos. Again, overbuff doesn't show the unmirrored win rates, but in any case, the effects we thought these changes would have were difficult to work through since they coincided with the modifications to his control scheme. It's a little easier to estimate the sort of effect that a numbered change will have on hero's performance, but estimating the power that comes from a fluid control scheme is a little harder to do. We weren't sure how much it would increase the hero's win rate, but we think we have a good base to build off of. Let's look at what these changes resulted in. We increased the ammo capacity in his healing to provide higher throughput and increase the amount of healing that his ultimate does. He has one of the highest healing outputs in the game, including the highest at some skill tiers. This aligns with our vision for the hero, and we're happy with where he's at. We also tightened the spread on his weapon, but this only marginally raised his kills and eliminations. You have to squint to see this actual change in our chart. So he's saying the tightened spread barely did nothing for his kills and eliminations, but at least his healing output is high, which I can agree with, because you have to just sit there and just heal bot. In the times I played Lifeweaver, you can't do both. Despite having a tighter spread, barely changed the eliminations because you don't even have time to pull out your weapon in most cases. That's my experience with him. Along with these stats, another piece of the puzzle is that Lifeweaver has one of the lowest, if not the lowest, death rate for support heroes in the game. This might seem like it runs counter to some of the commentary online that his hitbox is too big, but he is still taking a consistent amount of damage. It's in the middle to upper range of other supports. We have a support hero that has one of the highest healing rates and one of the lowest death rates in the game. That should be good, right? Well, Overwatch is more than the raw numbers that get assigned to a hero's weapons and abilities. Players need a reason to pick one hero over another. For Lifeweaver, those reasons are supposed to be his utility abilities. Life Grip, Pedal Platform, both can be game-changing abilities, but they're also inconsistent. When they work right, they can certainly change the state of a fight, but many times they're just waiting to be used, or just not being used well either by Lifeweaver or his team. That's the thing. They can be game-changing if done right, but if done wrong, like you do a bad pull, or the pedal platform just accidentally gets lifted because the teammate backs up into it and now it gets raised up, and now you don't have the pedal platform for 10 seconds. You had a bad life grip, 20-second cooldown. All these cooldowns are gone. You've got nothing to show for it because his damage isn't really anything impactful, and his healing, I mean, his healing numbers are high, but is that enough to win a game? I'll elaborate a bit more. Let me finish the article. When it comes to future changes for Lifeweaver, here's what we're thinking. We want it to be clear why players may select Lifeweaver over other heroes. If your current hero pick isn't working for some reason, whether it's the map or the enemy comp, what's a strong incentive for swapping to Lifeweaver? We may make other changes along the way, such as lightly buffing his Thorn Volley and reducing hitbox volumes, but ultimately, we'll have changes targeted at further pronouncing Lifeweaver's strengths and clearly defining his role on your team. This could be leaning harder into his healing effectiveness through a new passive, that's right, because they removed the Parting Gift passive, or they could be bringing additional benefits to some of his utility-focused abilities. With a defensive-based hero, we have to be careful of how far we go in terms of buffing raw healing and defensive abilities. Too far can negatively disrupt the overall flow of an engagement. These are some of the early things we're iterating through. Hope to have our next set of changes ready for Season 5. Season 5 is slated to be around mid-June. Based on the calendar, we do a 9-week, we work backwards. I think Season 4 began April, I want to say 4th, right? April 4th, or was it April 11th? In any case, if it was April 4th, then yeah, somewhere around mid-June will be the time for that. Not anytime soon. You gotta wait a few more weeks. For the rest of the season, if you pick Lifeweaver, you might get flamed. With these changes, it's our hope that Lifeweaver will rise to his proper place among the heroes in Overwatch 2. Looking forward to the next director's take, and there'll be a different subject, something a little more future-facing. As always, thanks for reading. See you in game. Okay, so that was Aaron's thoughts on this. Now, I'm gonna speak to my experience on Lifeweaver thus far. Yeah, he sucks. I thought after the initial buffs he was going to be viable, but in the highest elos, I know he says he has the lowest death rate, but that's because you can't help but play super safe and incredibly passive with this hero. I got absolutely blown up by Sombra, who's running around in high elo right now, along with Tracer. Tracer Sombra eats Lifeweaver alive right now, and Sombra plays pretty well into Lifeweaver as well. You can hack the pedal platform, it's gone. Hack him, big hit volume. You get pressured. Maybe you get to live, but like the amount of overwhelming pressure forces you to play defensive. And now they were saying that the healing numbers are great, but here's one thing about how you win a fight in Overwatch. How do you win? You have to eliminate the enemies within, you know, a certain reasonable period of time. So like, you know, if you take too long to eliminate them, they can come back and like rejoin the fight. Kill them quick enough, and then push the objective or defend the objective or whatnot. Wipe them off, right? So how do you secure kills? Well, I didn't explain that very well, but think about it this way. How do you kill them? You either do it yourself or you enable someone else to do it. Who's the other defensive support hero in the game? Mercy. How do you enable your DPS? Damage boost. Can you hard carry as Mercy? Arguably a little difficult. There's a lot of top support players when they ever do unranked GM challenges. Mercy, despite how good they are at Mercy generally takes the longest because it's kind of a mixed bag whether you're enabling the person and whether they can do something about it. You can certainly still make it there, and I'm certain there's people who can play Lifeweaver up to top 500, but it's incredibly difficult to play that defensively in a ranked setting. You're basically using your abilities to leverage or position your teammates to hopefully eliminate the enemies versus playing Baptiste, Zen, or Ana and just doing it yourself. If you can wipe them off yourself, why risk or why play to maybe have them eliminated? I would argue Mercy's damage boost, changing breakpoints, is a better enabler than Lifeweaver pulling someone into a fight aggressively, like if I life grip deep and be like, okay, now you do something. Are they gonna do it? Why play for a maybe when you can play for a guarantee? I can play Baptiste, ult myself, boom, kill one person. That's a whole enemy hero gone. Versus I pull this person, can they make something happen? Or in the flip side, you're defensively pulling someone away. Now you're just sitting there waiting for the enemy to make an impactful ultimate, and I have to sit there defensively and counter it. But what if that never happens? I'm just sitting here just healing. I'm not having any proactive impact. And being proactive is better than being passive in Overwatch 2. In Overwatch in general, being proactive is the best way to learn and to make something happen. A lot of heroes sit there and wait for someone else to do something. You have to be proactive to win games. You can probably still win games being passive. That can certainly still happen. But if you want a higher percentage or a higher chance of winning, you want to be proactive. And Lifeweaver just at this current state doesn't do that. Does that mean there's no place for a defensive hero? Not necessarily. At the highest levels, Overwatch League, we saw a little bit of Lifeweaver played because they just swapped to them, pedal platform the Widowmaker to go for a play, and maybe they switch off, maybe some of them can find ways to make it happen, but for the general population, that's going to be tough. So I think Aaron's suggestions where they're not looking at necessarily raw numbers, but they're looking at ways to buff or enable his defensive utilities, perhaps a way to like control where the pedal platform goes, maybe even reducing the cooldown so you don't sit there and have nothing happen. You could be a bit more proactive if life grip and pedal platform are not on such a long cooldown. That's also an idea I've thought about as well. If you're really not going to go the damage route, even if you make those changes, I still don't see Lifeweaver being that popular in a ranked setting because people are just asking for BAP Zen and like Reddit Lucio. A lot of good Lucios can farm a lot of damage, so can Brig. I mean, Mercy can enable the DPS. I just find it, without completely redesigning his kit or adding something substantial, I still don't even see Lifeweaver being played that often, or at least being meta anytime soon. These are interesting to see. We'll have to wait a few weeks for Season 5 to see what's going to happen. Don't play for a maybe. Just kill them yourself. Do it yourself, whatever that meme is from Avengers. And that's my take on Lifeweaver. He still needs a lot of help. Glad they're looking into it, Aaron Keller and the team. Just want to shout them out because they are actually like constantly updating what they're up to every few days. So this is a nice, refreshing thing. Hopefully we continue to see more transparency like this. All right, that's my thought on Lifeweaver. KarQ out. Peace.